Basically, I have to give some context first. My husband and I have an 8-month-old baby, our son. My husband has a pretty affluent white-collar job, and we recently moved into a pretty fancy neighborhood, like the type where the neighbors have barbecues for fun on the weekends, lol. Our direct next-door neighbors are a married couple, Jenna and Dan, made-up names, both in their 40s, and they have a daughter, 15, and a son, 17. At first, they were very nice, welcoming, kind, neighborly, all the good things. Me and my husband closed on the house when I was very pregnant, and we were stuck on if we were going to move in before or after the baby. We decided on before as to not disturb our son too much. So all of that to say, they've known us around 9-ish months and met my baby as a newborn. Recently, their daughter, again, 15, has been babysitting for us. I think she just likes it, and our son really likes her. And plus, we pay her a little. She pretty much just watches him for a few hours, and she knows she can always call. I like the girl a lot. She's a sweet kid. Plus, it's been actually very relieving to have someone watch my son while I run to the store before my husband gets home. Little things like that I lost the luxury of, lol. Her dad, however, is a mega creep. At least to me. My husband noticed it immediately, even when I was heavily pregnant, which is even creepier in my opinion. I didn't believe him at first, but I definitely do now. He just leers at me for too long, talks to me too much, and sometimes surpasses the conversation past what you should talk about with your neighbors or as a married man. This whole situation happened after I was at the store with my baby. I'm also a stay-at-home mom, and when I came out, my car wouldn't start. I called my husband, who couldn't leave work because of a case, but called his brother. My brother-in-law was busy, so I called a AAA. They said it'd be 5 hours before someone could come, and again, I had my baby. I was honestly fine just leaving my car in the Target parking lot until my husband could come home from work, but I was scared to take my baby in an Uber just in my arms, since I wouldn't be able to move his car seat. So my husband groaned and said, "Call the neighbors." I called Jenna, who said that Dan would absolutely come and get me. I said great, and he was there 20 minutes later. Even though he didn't have a car seat still, and I know that's horrible, I trusted him more to drive safely than a random Uber. The car ride was fine, honestly. We talked about my baby and his daughter a bit. Except for when we got into our neighborhood, he started to ask about my husband. How much does he work? Does he pay attention to me? How's he with the baby? All of this stuff that, like I said, isn't normal to ask your neighbor. I just tried to laugh it off. But then, when we parked in my driveway, Dan literally leans over, grabs my face, and tries to kiss me. First of all, I had my freaking baby in my arms. How disgusting. And I told him that, very loudly. I called him just about every name under the sun and took off into my house. I was literally shaking as I called my husband and explained the situation. Needless to say, my hubby was very, very angry. He told me that we'd never be talking to Dan again and that the only way we'd associate with Jenna is if she gets divorced from him. He went as far as to say he wanted their daughter to stop babysitting for us and we'd find a new one. While I agree that I definitely don't want to associate with Dan or Jenna, still deciding on if it's my place to tell her what happened, their daughter shouldn't get punished for it. Like I said, she's a sweet kid and I already trust her a lot. I told my husband that maybe we could consider letting her keep our babysitter, and he just won't hear it. I can sort of understand, but also not. IDK, what do you think? Would you let the babysitter keep her job even though her dad is a creep? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You should tell Jenna. She deserves to know. Until you and Jenna talk, and depending on her reaction, you need to hold off on accidentally involving her daughter by having her over a lot while this is all messed up. You need to cut contact with either him, but document everything. He sounds unhinged to even try that in front of your baby after he drove you home on his wife's orders. Something is wrong with him. Comment 2. Your husband is right. Do not use the daughter as a babysitter anymore. It's just messy to have anything to do with that family. It's a violation for him to kiss you. You need to create space away from him, and you can't do that with his daughter still in your life. It's showing Dan that what he did wasn't that bad. I hope you tell his wife right away. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a tense 3 days since my last post, and I've got quite the update for you all. So buckle up because things have taken some unexpected turns. Let's start with the babysitter situation. After the incident with Dan, my husband was adamant that we cut ties with the entire family, including their daughter who babysits for us. I was torn because she's been nothing but great with our son, and it didn't seem fair to punish her for her dad's actions. We argued back and forth about it, but in the end, we decided to have a talk with her. We sat her down and explained the situation as delicately as we could. She was shocked and upset, understandably. She told us that she had noticed her dad acting strangely around other women before, but never thought he'd do something like this. It was a tough conversation, and she ended up deciding that it would be best if she stopped babysitting for us, at least for a while. She said she needed to process everything and talk to her mom. It was a mature decision for a 15-year-old, and I respected her for it. Now, onto the jaw-dropping part. The next day, Jenna came over to our house, unannounced. She was visibly upset, and I braced myself for a confrontation. But instead, she came to apologize. She said she had no idea what Dan had been doing and that she was horrified when her daughter told her what happened. Jenna revealed that this wasn't the first time Dan had acted inappropriately with other women, but she had always hoped it was just rumors or misunderstandings. She thanked us for being honest with her and said she needed to figure out what to do about her marriage. The surprises didn't stop there, though. Later that evening, Dan came over, furious, demanding to speak to my husband. He accused us of trying to ruin his life and his reputation. My husband stood his ground, telling Dan that his actions were the cause of any problems he was facing. It was a heated exchange, and Dan eventually stormed off, but not before threatening legal action for defamation. We were shaken, but stood by our decision to speak up about what happened. In the midst of all this chaos, my husband and I have been trying to find a new babysitter, which has been more challenging than we anticipated. We've had a couple of interviews, but no one seems to click with our son the way their daughter did. It's been a stressful few days trying to juggle our schedules without a babysitter we trust. And here's the bittersweet ending to this update. This morning, Jenna came by again. She told us she had decided to separate from Dan and was filing for divorce. She was heartbroken, but felt it was the right thing to do for her and her children. She also mentioned that her daughter missed our son and asked if, once things settled down, she might be able to babysit for us again. It was a small glimmer of hope in a messy situation. Polygamy is legal in my state, but my husband broke our rule and started seeing someone else. Now he wants me to quit my job and be financially dependent on him. Oh boy, I just found a job at a bookstore, and the owner is helping me. I confronted my husband and found out he's been funding the other woman's business with our money. Oh boy, I got legal help from the bookstore owner. To put this out there sooner rather than later, we are in a polygamous relationship. But with agreements and rules, of course. The very basic rule is that I need to be told when this is starting to happen with another woman. She also needs to be told about me and fully informed of our situation. When I first got pregnant, we did agree that he wouldn't be looking or entertaining women. He said he wouldn't want to do that right now, that he wanted to give me his full attention during this time of pregnancy and for some time after to give the attention towards our family. During our relationship, he hasn't ventured off and tried anything, figured this piece of information should be said. So I consider this cheating because I wasn't told about the situation, and he confirmed neither was she. During our relationship, he wanted me to quit my job and start getting used to being at home and having him take care of me financially. I agreed. We also knew that we would like to start trying for a baby soon. Once I found out about this other woman, he wanted to throw it out there that he is polygamous and he's not just a one-woman kind of man. I don't think that excuse is plausible considering our rule of everything being put out there, so I'm aware of what's going on. I disregarded the fact that he said he wouldn't be looking during pregnancy and sometime after, and just focusing on our main rule. Am I in the wrong? Should I not be considering this cheating? Just not sure where to go or what to do? I'm currently staying at a motel for the couple of days I could afford myself and trying to figure some things out. Just started looking for a job that I could have for a few months before I'm no longer able to work. Just not sure where to go from here and what I should be thinking of the whole situation. Edit. I understand polygamy and polyamory are two separate types of a non-monogamous relationship. I chose the word polygamy because if he could choose to have two wives instead partners, he would. It was a mutual agreement to be a one-sided poly relationship. I don't see myself being with two or more different men. He did voice that he wouldn't want me to be, though. As for the timing of everything, we started dating in the middle of 2022. He told me a few months or so into the relationship that he is poly. This whole time, he hasn't physically done anything with another woman. I'm sure he has entertained through texts. In the middle of 2023, he said he would like to take care of me financially and would like me to quit my job if I agreed. I found out about being pregnant a couple of months after I quit my job. As for everyone telling me to get tested, I have multiple times throughout our relationship, not because I thought he was cheating, but because I always have done that. I was looking for some advice, not for people to be judgmental on my circumstances, and in turn, be insulting. I guess I shouldn't have expected that, though. Thank you to everyone who truly did give me their well-rounded, thought-out advice. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Honestly, by the display of the story, it doesn't really matter that you're in a polygamous relationship. He set up a boundary to immediately break it. That's wrong in any relationship. I'm polygamous and in a polyamorous relationship, and I hate people who have no clue how to create something healthy and responsible. He got you pregnant, promised things, and then got aroused and went behind your back. Ugh! Comment 2. He is a cheater. You have been bamboozled. It is really common for an hurtful partner to slowly change established rules or expectations in a relationship to exert more control. Polyamory is not one-sided. Having to depend on him financially while pregnant, then having a new baby is an unfair power dynamic. Unless he changes his behavior immediately, you need an exit plan. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been a month since my last post, and boy do I have an update for you. After I found out my partner had broken our agreement by not telling me about his new relationship, things have been a roller coaster. I've been staying at a motel, job hunting, and trying to figure out my next steps while pregnant. So I started looking for a job, and guess what? I landed one at a local bookstore. It's not much, but it's something. The owner, Mrs. Jenkins, has been an angel. She even knows about my situation and has been super supportive, offering me flexible hours and a listening ear. Now, let's talk about my partner. After I left, he was blowing up my phone with apologies, saying he made a mistake and that he wanted to fix things. But I wasn't ready to just forgive and forget. I needed time to think and to see if his actions would match his words. During this time, I did some digging. I reached out to the other woman and we met for coffee. Turns out, she had no idea about me or the pregnancy. She was just as shocked and hurt as I was. We talked for hours, and it was like a scene from a movie where the two rivals team up. She decided to end things with him too. But here's the jaw-dropping part. She revealed that my partner had been funding her startup business with money that was supposed to be for our future. I was floored. I couldn't believe he would do that behind my back, especially since I had quit my job for our family. Armed with this information, I confronted him. It was a tense conversation, and he tried to deny it at first, but I had proof. He finally admitted it, and I could see the guilt in his eyes. I told him that trust was broken, and I needed space to think about our future. In the midst of all this, I started feeling unwell and went to the doctor. They did some tests and found out I was having twins. Twins. I was overwhelmed, but also felt a strange sense of empowerment. I was going to be a mom to two little ones, and I needed to be strong for them. Now for the subtle justice that was served. Remember Mrs. Jenkins, the bookstore owner? Well, she's actually a retired lawyer, and she offered to help me pro bono. We looked into my legal options, and she helped me secure child support and a settlement from my partner for the money he took. My partner was shocked when he got the legal papers. He realized he he couldn't just sweet-talk his way out of this one. He agreed to the terms without a fight, probably because he knew he was in the wrong. Parents defend boyfriend Mark after he tries to touch my injured leg. Then I overhear them discussing missing money, and I find evidence linking him to the theft. I am 18 years old, and I called the police on my parents' boyfriend, who is 29 years old. As long as I can remember, my parents have always had a boyfriend or girlfriend, but they were introduced as aunt or uncle to me. When I got older, I started calling them by their names since they were not related to me. I didn't really care about this arrangement. It was just the way things were at my house. Anyway, 1 year ago, Mark became a part of our family. I didn't connect with him like I did with the others. There was just something about him that I didn't like, so I would just avoid him. It was easy to do since he didn't live with us like the others sometimes did. I'm very into sports, and one day while practicing with my friends, I got hurt. They helped me get home, and Mark was there while my parents hadn't come back from visiting friends yet. I told my friends I would be fine, and they left. I was in my room when Mark just walked in without knocking, and I was shocked. He seemed to like my reaction. I told him to get out, but he told me to calm down and that he just brought me some deep heat and painkillers to help with my injury. I said thanks and went to take them from him, but he pulled away and put some cream on his hands. Then he reached for my injured leg, but I slapped his hand away and asked what he thought he was doing. He said it would be better if he did it, but I told him I can do it myself. He still reached for my leg and I panicked and started screaming. He backed up quickly and said he was only trying to help, and I didn't have to be a brat about it. Then he left my room. I called my friend because I was scared, and she told me to call the police. So I did, and he got arrested after the police talked to me. They asked where my parents were, and I told them. My friend and her dad showed up, and they said I could go home with them. My parents came to our place hours later, and I started crying and told them what happened. Then my dad asked if he didn't actually touch me, and I said no. But my friend's dad said it didn't matter if he didn't touch me. He shouldn't have been in my room in the first place. My dad said I misunderstood his intentions and was blowing it out of proportion. My friend's dad kicked them out. My friend's dad apologized to me and told us he was sorry we had to hear all that, and my friend and I went to hang out in her room. Dad texted me not so long ago and said it was all a misunderstanding and I should have called them instead of the police. I'm starting to feel very bad and thinking I might have overreacted. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are 18 years old. It's time to leave your parents. Sorry to say, but you have a father who is not very good. Your parents are the kind of people who shouldn't have kids, especially a girl child. He made a move because he knew your parents wouldn't do much about it. If you had called your parents, this would have happened again. Congrats, you have good instincts and a good friend with a strong father figure. It's time to seek help from them and move out. Comment 2. He's a big weirdo for walking into your room and trying to touch you. It seems like he used your pain as an excuse. You did the right thing. Tell your parents that you do not want to be alone with him in the house ever again. They should prioritize your safety, not his feelings. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So, after the whole incident with Mark, things got really tense at home. My parents were upset with me for calling the cops, and I was still feeling pretty shaken up about the whole thing. I stayed with my friend for a few days, trying to avoid the drama, but I knew I had to go back eventually. When I got home, my parents sat me down for a talk. They said they understood why I was upset, but they also explained that Mark had been going through a tough time. Apparently, he'd lost his job a few months back and was struggling with some personal issues. They thought he was just trying to be helpful and that I had misunderstood his intentions. I didn't buy it, but I could tell they were trying to smooth things over. The next day, I was at school when I got a text from my mom. She said that Mark wanted to apologize in person and that he was coming over that evening. I was nervous, but I agreed to hear him out. Mark showed up looking pretty remorseful. He said he was sorry for scaring me and that he never meant any harm. He even brought me a new pair of sneakers as a peace offering, knowing how much I loved sports. I was wary, but the gesture did seem sincere. But then, things took a turn. A few days later, I overheard my parents talking in hushed tones in the kitchen. They didn't know I was listening, and I heard them mention something about money missing from their bedroom. I remembered Mark had been around the house a lot before the incident, and I couldn't help but wonder if he had something to do with it. I decided to do some digging. I went through some old boxes in the attic and found a bunch of old photos and letters from past boyfriends and girlfriends of my parents. It was clear that they had a pattern of letting people get too close too fast, and it often ended badly. I couldn't shake the feeling that Mark was just the latest in a long line of mistakes. I confronted my parents with my suspicions about the missing money. At first, they were defensive, but then they started to put the pieces together. They checked Mark's social media and found pictures of him flaunting new clothes and gadgets he couldn't afford on his own. It was clear he had taken the money. My parents were devastated. They had trusted Mark and he had betrayed them. They decided to confront him, and it was a huge blowout. Mark denied everything at first, but when faced with the evidence, he finally admitted to taking the money. He said he was desperate and didn't know what else to do. My parents told him to leave and never come back. It was a tough moment for all of us. I felt vindicated in a way, but also sad to see my parents so hurt. In the end, my parents thanked me for being brave enough to speak up. They realized they needed to be more careful about who they let into our lives. It was a hard lesson, but an important one. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.